As a communication scholar, I was particularly delighted to respond to Dr. Austin's ideas about the ways in which the liberal arts might embrace technology. I also was a bit surprised when I read this transcript because conversations about the future of the liberal arts usually begin with the defense of the liberal arts. And most attempt to describe how the intellectual practices institutionalized during the 17th century, specific to the cultures of Western Europe, and caught up with the logics of print technology, remain relevant and broadly applicable. I am about to argue that they do, but not necessarily to the exclusion of present and future technologies. But Dr. Austin, your talk raises a question I want to pose to the community, which is that as we move forward, how will we reconcile old and new media literacies? We who teach in the liberal arts often find ourselves on the defense for a number of reasons. Current economic conditions make 4 years of reading and writing sound like some kind of an indulgence to some. Impractical, inefficient, even elitist. I think, however, that the future of the liberal arts remains tethered, of course, to the history of liberalism, to the project of the Enlightenment, and to the assumption that literacy produces free citizens capable of the public use of reason. Many argue that the intellectual stamina most often associated with print literacy helps us to make informed decisions in a democracy. We should preserve, therefore, the ability to read, understand, and synthesize nuanced and historically complicated arguments. This is in no way efficient, but absolutely relevant. Current economic conditions also mean that our students are burdened with the practical and the efficient. You've heard the numbers. As tuition rises, students graduate with debt and to a difficult job market. It seems reasonable they ask, what can I do with the degree in? And as Dr. Austin suggested, evidence continues to point to the fact that employers seek out applicants who can speak and write well, who think critically and carefully, and who demonstrate the ability to focus on a task, problem, or conversation, often for longer than it takes to text or tweet. Employers also seek out those who can use new technologies most effectively, who have developed a number of different types of media literacy. So to pose the question again, how do we preserve the benefits of print literacy, especially given its relationship to democracy, and at the same time develop new literacies that will benefit our students and our mission? I want to make one final point, which is that despite the constraints of debt a market, a college degree remains one of the markers of class mobility. I recently learned that St. Anselm College has educated many first-generation college students, and because of their successes, we now educate third-generation college students, the children and grandchildren. As a first-generation college student myself, it is extremely important to me that a liberal arts education continues to offer class mobility, and in so doing, to democratize public culture. I share Dr. Austin's optimism that the advent of new digital technologies presents an opportunity to enrich our classrooms and to offer greater access to the liberal arts education. I worry, though, that under current conditions, the liberal arts college and the traditional liberal arts education will be accessible only to the elite. Currently, a disproportionate number of working class people, particularly men and women of color, choose to enroll in online programs instead. This is not necessarily a democratic or democratizing model for education. So, if we are to employ technology in the service of the liberal arts, I think we need to think about, among other things, two things. First, how we will preserve old literacies within the new, and how we will employ technologies in ways that do not replicate the social inequalities a liberal arts education otherwise might level.